In this video, I'm answering some outstanding questions from viewers. Don't turn away because that starts right now. Howdy! Thanks for learning about MS with me, Aaron Boster. Adelia V asks an outstanding question. As a patient, how do I know if a medicine's working? Signs of getting better? I feel like I keep progressing, but no new lesions. And this is an outstanding question. There's really three ways that we try to assess if a human being with MS is responding to the medicine. Number one is what they tell us, and that's probably the most important way. Why? Because you're a you expert. You know more about you than anyone else. You know more about you than I do, than my neurological tests tell me, or the MRI tells me. And so I need to be a really good listener. The second way is to look at structure. So taking a picture of the brain and spinal cord with an MRI and looking for evidence of new or worsening structural damage. The third way is the MS Olympics, when I have you do all that kind of stuff and I can see if your performance on your neurological testing is the same as it was 6 months or a year earlier. The reality is, in 2023, our medicines are not perfect. And whereas I want to completely put the kibosh on all progression of disability, all attacks, and all new spots on MRI, sometimes our kung fu's not that strong. So then what do? We can look at the data from clinical trials where we tested hundreds or sometimes thousands of people with MS similar to yours, and we can look at how they changed over time. Oftentimes what we find is encouraging, but it's not a 100% success. For example, we will see that at the end of 2 years, people on medicine got worse, but they got less worse than if they were on placebo, or they got less worse than if they were on a drug that was being compared to. That is a form of success. Now, I'm not sitting here bragging, I'm simply being very honest. I also want to share with you that there is an ongoing international effort to do better. In the now, as I make this video, we try to help someone live their very best life by applying the most effective medicine that they're comfortable taking, with a goal of shutting down new spots on the MRI and stopping new attacks. And quite honestly, our newer medicines are really good at that. The thing that we're still struggling with is to stop progression of neurological disability. I can tell you that we are able to slow it down, and that is something, but it's not everything. That was a great question. Thank you for asking it. David 2629 states, I've been told that contrast dye isn't necessary, as an MRI shows just as much without it as it does with it, and because of the risks of the contrast dye. David, thanks for asking that question. When I obtain an MRI with contrast, I learn more than without. Now, that doesn't mean that a non-contrasted MRI is useless. I think it's very useful. But you do absolutely learn more when you give the contrast. Also, when you're doing the MRI matters. For example, when you're working someone up for a potential new diagnosis of MS, I feel the contrast is absolutely required because many of the diagnostic criteria depend upon presence of contrast as one of the metrics for diagnosis. And so in that instance, I absolutely want it. Then once someone is diagnosed with MS, and let's say we start them on an MS medicine, the use of the MRI changes. We're now using the MRI to determine if there are new or enhancing or enlarged lesions. If a patient gets an MRI without contrast, it's still useful. That's true. But adding the contrast gives me more information. Given my choices, all things being equal, I want the contrast as part of the picture. Is it absolutely necessary? No. Do I throw a fit if the patient says I don't want it? No. It just gives me slightly less information. Great question. Thanks for asking. Real quick before we move on, if you like this video, would you give it a thumbs up? Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Thank you. Alyssa X. Marie asks, when should your neurologist be called with new or worsening symptoms? That's an excellent question. And when you're getting used to a new diagnosis, it can be really frustrating and sometimes scary not knowing when you need to reach out and when you don't. And so I oftentimes will teach my patients what I call the 24-hour rule. A new neurological symptom is caused by inflammation, and inflammation doesn't go away in a couple hours or even in a day. As an example, if you socked me in my jaw and my face got all puffy. Tomorrow it's more puffy because it's all inflamed. And the same thing is true when you have a new MS attack. You're not going to see a new MS attack that only lasts for an hour. It's going to go on for days. So, if you wake up and your hand's numb and you shake it out and it feels better, you probably don't have to reach out to your neurologist. However, if you wake up and your hand's numb and the next day it's more numb, now it's gone on more than a day. And that's the 24-hour rule. That's when I would reach out and call your doctor. I hope that helps. The most impactful thing that you could do to help this channel grow is to watch another video. So please click the video that's on your screen right now and up your game. My name's Boster, and until my next Monday morning video or my next monthly live stream, or even better yet, the next time I see you at the Boster Center for MS, be safe and take care.